Good morning, everyone. Today we will be discussing about the critical attributes of 21st century education. This includes the integrated and interdisciplinary. Next is the technologies and multimedia. Global classroom, creating or adapting to constant personal and social change, and the lifelong learning. Lastly is the student-centered. As we go through the discussion, we will be able to know what is 21st century education. 21st century has to evolve and adapt to the changing needs of our generation of learning. Indeed, new process of teaching have to be introduced as well. As a 21st century teacher, you need to develop essential knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values to be able to cope up with these challenges and to help your students address them as well. So what is a 21st century education? To a certain extent, it can be fully defined because it is constantly changing. But we do know a few things. A 21st century education is one that responds to the economical, technological, and societal shifts that are happening at an ever-increasing pace. It is an education that sets children up to succeed in a world where more than half of the jobs they'll have over their careers don't even exist yet. In short, it's an education that provides students with skills and competencies they need to thrive in the 21st century. The first critical attribute of 21st century education is the integrated and interdisciplinary approach. In this approach to integration, teachers organize the curriculum around common learnings across disciplines. They chunk together the common learnings embedded in the disciplines and emphasizes interdisciplinary skills and concepts. Nowadays, knowledge is no longer distinct into clear-cut learning chunks or separated subjects. Education in the 21st century is characterized by linkage among various subject areas in an integrated manner. The new approach promotes the utilization of learning from various disciplines. These critical attributes implies that the teacher needs to review the school curriculum and identifies the strategies or ways on how different subjects can be effectively linked to enhance the learning experience of the students. There are significant effects of integration and interdisciplinary approach. It encourages students to see the interconnectedness and interrelationship between the curriculum areas. Another one, it also provides opportunities for students to display competence that are given rather than written tests. Of course, integration and interdisciplinary approach also help teachers to get a unified view of reality and enhances their capabilities to acquire real-life skills. It does this by linking learning content between the and among the subject areas. There is integration when pupils are able to connect what they are learning in one subject area to related content in another subject area. For an instance, topics learned in math or social studies may be used by the learners with related concepts and skills in reading and language. The quality of learning outcomes improves as pupils are able to integrate information across disciplines. Let's proceed to another critical attribute of 21st century education, which is the technologies and multimedia. Technology and multimedia education in 21st century makes full use of available information and communication technology, or the ICT. Example of these are the computers and the internet, as well as the multimedia, like for example, the using of audio and video-based instruction to improve teaching and learning activities. Persky said that the first generation to grow up in the society immersed in technology are called the digital natives. As a teacher, some of your day-to-day activity like writing, reporting, creating multimedia presentation, and communicating or exchanging information with your colleagues and students online. These require different levels of digital literacy. So when we say digital literacy, this refers to the ability to find and evaluate, utilize and create information using technologies and multimedia or digital technology in general. As such, it is important for you to develop your digital literacy skills so that you can in turn pass this on your learners. These critical attributes implies that your school will need to acquire and use computers and various multimedia equipment to enhance learning to the best extent as possible. Training is also needed for teachers, users as part of a bigger technology plan. There are also essential skills for digital teaching and learning. From a very young age, today's children are exposed to computers, the internet, the instant messaging, social networking sites, and cell phones that provide instant communication both locally and globally. Some researchers shows that today's digital students learn more when engaged in meaningful, relevant, and intellectually stimulating schoolwork, and that the use of technology can increase the frequency of this type of learning. This study came from North Central Regional Education Laboratory or NCREL and the Misery Group last 2003. Using technology, teachers can tap into the knowledge of experts, visualize and analyze data with their students, link learning, authentic context, and take advantage of the opportunities for electronic shared reflection. This is also a study Ransford, Brown, and Cocking last 1999. All these pedagogical opportunities need to be part of current teacher education programs. Preparation of tomorrow's teachers, however, does not depend solely on how well emerging technologies are incorporated into the college coursework. Instead, it rests on how well incoming teachers are taught to leverage the technology to help their students develop these same skills. In the use of multimedia technologies in the classroom setting, there are also skills for the 21st century that should be applied. This includes the critical thinking, information and media literacy, creativity, communication skills, collaboration, and contextual learning. In critical thinking, although technology use can facilitate communication, today's students must learn how to think deeply about their learning so that they can realize their place in a rapidly changing global society. With this, the critical learning is an in-depth examination of topics from variety of perspectives and calls for cognitive skills, such as the comparison, classification, sequencing patterning, webbing, and planning. According to the study of Gunther and NCREL and the Misery Group, information and media literacy involves the ability to critically analyze and evaluate information, determine what information is needed, and locate, synthesize, evaluate, and use information effectively. Since so much of today's media is in visual form, students need visual literacy learning skills to understand information that integrates images, videos, sequence, design, form, symbols, color, 3D, and graphic representation. Creativity is the act of bringing something into existence that is genuinely new, original, and of value. According to the Committee of Workforce Needs in Information Technology, today's measure of intelligence involves the capacity to create, produce, and apply technology in complex and sustained situations. This skill is essential to teaching today's children effectively. They are a generation of learners who have continuing technology-enhanced opportunities to create and share new, original, and valuable information with others. Communication centers on the ability to impart one's thoughts effectively to others. Using current technology, communication is not only far easier than it was in times past, it is also constantly available in a wide variety of forms. 21st century learning as students are increasingly expected to use digital media to interact, communicate, collaborate, and publish with peers, experts, and with others using a variety of digital media. As pre-service teacher, most also hone their communication skills in ways that make use of all technologies available. Next is the collaboration. It is a process or an outcome of joint activity with former being typically more in line with how it has been used in the 21st century skills movement. Collaboration skills are both generic and content or context specific, in that the collaborative skills themselves do not typically vary across the content areas. Collaboration, as understood in the 21st century skills movement, is a process, not an outcome. Therefore, teachers will need to use specific prompts or probes embedded in the student and peers' reflection or evaluation to gather evidence about student application of collaborative skills while completing the assessment task. Third critical attribute to the 21st century education is the global classroom. Education in the 21st century aims to produce global citizens by exposing students to the concerns of the region and other countries. This critical attribute implies that teachers need to include current global issues or concerns, such as peace and respect for cultural diversity, climate change, and global warming, in classroom discussion. Students are also encouraged to react and respond to issues as part of their roles as global citizens. Having the technology without a solid lesson plan is no better than having a good lesson plan, but poor technology implementation. Professor Jennifer V. Long from the University of Calgary has developed a four-item framework to help teachers design authentic, collaborative learning to build a global classroom. This is based on her research. First is the nature of inquiry. Teachers can use the inquiry-based learning approach as a starting point for the building of the global collaboration project. Topics. To find a suitable topics, they must put right questions such as what topics do students think are important? What are the problems that they are confronted with each day? The best topics arise from thinking about a real-life significance, something that students everywhere can make sense of in their own lives, and that is tied to their communities, and it can help them develop a better understanding of a specific subject. Next is the intentional integration of ICT or EdTech. Once you have a good topic, you must carefully consider what tech to use and whether it will truly enable students to connect and collaborate. Teachers have to assess the resources and capacities of both schools from before starting a project. Fortunately, It's now easier than ever to collaborate online. For example, you can use a school's learning management system or LMS, which is a familiar tool for teachers around the world. For asynchronous collaboration, you can use groups and forums, a shared blog, or a wiki. For synchronous learning, both classrooms can benefit from one-on-one school group or whole classroom discussion. Using video conferencing, it is also easier to organize the project by having a shared resources, library, and the integration of multimedia tools for presentation. To spark interesting conversations, teachers have also integrated VR tools in their classrooms to show students how they can travel anywhere and learn more about other cultures. Intentionality of interaction. All activities should be designed with clear learning objectives in mind, that there is need to be a structure in place that requires students to collaborate as well as the opportunity to do so. Successful interaction allows students to share ideas, learn from each other, participate in small or large group discussions, use a variety of media to work on a task, and help each other accomplish learning goals. Teachers can monitor the progress of students to determine whether they are really engaging in meaningful collaborative learning. Most of all, they can set an example by getting to know each other as educators first and show they listen to and appreciate each other's opinions. Plus, teachers have access to many activities that can support online collaboration, including digital storytelling. Fourth critical attribute of the 21st century education is creating or adapting to constant personal and social change, or the lifelong learning. Education in 21st century subscribes to the belief that learning does not only happen inside the school and during one's schooling years. Learning can take place anywhere, anytime, regardless of one's age. This means the teachers should facilitate students' acquisition of KSVAVs that go beyond academics. Learning should take place not only for the purpose of passing exams, but also for transferring knowledge to real-life situations. The curriculum should be planned in such way that the students will continue to learn even after the school's portal. He wrote, education is not a preparation for a life, but is life itself. Do reflected extensively on the page about the role of education in a healthy, ever-evolving democratic society, and he believed that classrooms aren't just a place to study social change, but a place to spark social change. So, how can teachers build real classrooms that exemplifies Dewey's ideal for education in society? Here are a few ideas taken from School of Education online programs. First, encourage active participation and experimentation with ideas among students. Unfortunately, teachers and students who want to see some kind of paper-based progress often push for a lot of memorization of dates, facts, and definitions. However, this type of learning is not the society shifting classroom activity of which Dewey wrote. Instead, teachers should construct active learning opportunities where students can be fully engaged with the material and play with ideas without being reprimanded for going too far afield. A few ways teacher might facilitate such a learning environment include letting students teach each other, setting up systems for occasionally letting students ask anonymous questions, and assigning open-ended projects in which Students aren't given the impression that they're expected to take prescribed steps until they get to the right answer. Next is to prepare students to expect the need for change and to believe in their own ability to take positive steps for the benefit of society. One step teacher can take to encourage students to play a part in a larger societal improvement is to create a classroom where they are given the responsibility and authority to make some significant decisions. If teachers have all the answers, it's implied that students are expected to receive knowledge, not offer solutions or improvements. But if teachers make it clear that, especially when it comes to the big question we all face, even those in authority don't know it all, then students have more room to rely on their own cognitive powers and problem-solving skills. Teachers might try offering lessons in, for example, how ethical decisions are made and the rule of empathy and considered arguments, and then setting up situations in which students can apply these skills in solving problems. Also, it is important to create a learning environment which students learn to see the benefits of a worthy failure rather than learning to fear the possibility of doing something wrong. Make classroom processes democratic to establish the idea that if we actively participate in our communities, we can help make decisions about how they function. Duly noted that if we want our education system to benefit the larger cause of a healthy democratic society, then it's important that we keep democracy as a central frame of reference in our classroom. Too often, he adds, we forget that participating in a democratic or in a democracy is a skill that needs to be upheld in our daily lives. So classroom is a good place to learn to do just that, considering making classrooms more democratic than authoritarian. Starting at a young age, what decision can you put to students in the classroom? Before organizing a vote, can you encourage those on opposing sides to clearly state their position and try to understand the response to the counter argument? Students will be learning that their thoughts and ideas count and can be applied to benefit their larger communities, all while welcoming opposing sides on an issue. Educators want their learners to succeed both in, in and out of the classroom. The idea is to make sure that once our children leave school, they no longer need us. In essence, our learners must become teachers and leaders. The point is that they never stop being learners. This is what it means to be a lifelong learner. Here are some few ways that you can help them achieve this priceless mindset. First, encourage learning ownership. Ultimately, we are responsible for our own learning. Outside the school, students will be expected. Second, turn mistakes into opportunities. The practice of learning from mistakes is one of the best lifelong learning skills anyone can master. There is so much we can learn from making mistakes. They remind us that we're human and that we tried. They show us better ways to think and work, and also provide insights into hidden knowledge and awareness. Trying new things and stretching ourselves help us grow mentally and emotionally, as do the mistakes that will inevitably come with it. Our learners are both tough and fragile at the same time. We must always treat mistakes as opportunities and never as crimes. Next is find time to play. Any theater actor will tell you why a play is called a play. It's because on stage, playing is exactly what you do. In doing so, you learn about yourself and others. You learn communication, comprehension, and unique social skills as you bring stories alive to teach others. The experience is enjoyable to both you and to those watching. Play is an important part of learning. It's essential that learning is fun and enjoyable. Otherwise, the learner will resist it. They will associate it with unpleasant intellectual and emotional feelings instead of the joys of discovery and personal growth. We must ensure our kids never see learning as a chore, but rather as the bold adventure it was meant to be. Last way to build lifelong learning skills in your learners is to set learning goals. Since learning should have a purpose, this means having the end clearly in mind. There must be a valid and worthwhile reason for learning. To have any value, it must be a meaningful and useful experience we can move forward within our lives. No matter where they are in life, we must make sure our learners continue learning and growing. We do this by making sure they want to. That is the gift we give them when we release them into the waiting world. Another critical attribute on the 21st century education is the student-centered. The term student-centered learning refers to a wide variety of educational programs, learning experiences, the instructional approaches, and academic support strategies that are intended to address the distinct learning needs, interests, aspiration, or cultural backgrounds of individual students and group of students. To accomplish this goal, schools, teachers, guidance counselors, and other educational specialists may employ a wide variety of educational methods, from modifying assignments and instructional strategies in the classroom to the entire pre-designing of ways in which students are grouped and taught in a school. Education in 21st century is focused on the students as learners. It is tailor-fit to address the individual learning needs of each student. Differentiated instruction is common in 21st century classrooms, where diverse student factors are taken into account when planning and delivering instruction. You, as a teacher, can structure learning environments that address the variety of learning styles, interests, needs, and abilities found in your classroom. This critical attribute implies that teachers should act as a facilitator of learning, not as a sage on the stage, but as guides on the side. Learners should be given opportunities to discuss new knowledge, learning with one another, and create their own learning. There are fundamental characteristics of student-centered learning we must consider in order to have conducive and effective teaching. First is the teaching and learning should be personalized. Next, it should be proficiency-based learning. Third, students should have a flexibility to learn anytime and anywhere. Lastly, students should take ownership on their learning. As mentioned earlier, one of the fundamental characteristics of student-centered learning is how teaching and learning process should be personalized. This refers to a diverse variety of educational programs, learning experiences, instructional approaches, and academic support strategies that are intended to address the distinct learning needs interests, aspirations, and cultural backgrounds of individual students. Personalized learning is generally seen as an alternative to so-called one-size-fits-all approaches to schooling in which teachers may, for example, provide all students in a given course with the same type of instruction, the same assignments, and the same assessments with little variation or modification from student to student. So, personalized learning may also be called student-centered learning, since the general goal is to make individual learning needs the primary consideration in important educational and instructional decisions, rather than what might be preferred more conveniently or logistically easier for students and schools. Second fundamental characteristics of student-centered learning is the proficiency-based learning. This refers to a system of instruction, assessment, grading, and academic reporting that are based on students demonstrating that they have learned the knowledge and skills they are expected to learn as they progress through their education. In public schools, proficiency-based system is use state learning standards to determine academic expectation and define proficiency in a given course subject area or grade level. The general goal of proficiency-based learning is to ensure that students are acquiring the knowledge and skills that are deemed to be essential to success in school, higher education, careers, and adult life. Students fail to meet expected learning standards. They typically receive additional instruction, practice time, and academic support to help them achieve proficiency or meet the expected standard. Next, fundamental characteristics of student-centered learning approach is that students must have the flexibility to learn anytime and anywhere. So this provides access to vital information that addresses different learning styles and preferences, meaning that students' learning can take place outside of traditional classroom and school-based settings such as through work-study programs or online courses, or during non-traditional times such as on nights and weekends. Students should take ownership to their learning. This is another fundamental characteristic of student-centered learning. Students are given the opportunities to make their own choices about their own learning and can contribute to their design or to the design of learning experience. So they can also choose whatever opportunities or whatever activities they would like to do in order for them to learn. Before I end this presentation, I would like to share a quote from Dr. Mamzelle Adolphine. To be an effective 21st century teacher, a teacher must first possess the very same 21st century skills that their students are expected to have. And in addition to those skills, they must be able to help all of their students obtain and develop 21st century skills. As a teacher, we must learn to embrace the program. As a teacher, we must find ways and means so that we can cater the needs of the learners. We must be resourceful, flexible, and willing to accept challenges in the field of teaching. This is very important in maximizing our capacities and competencies as a teacher, because learning could be made possible if we live in an environment characterized by peace, tolerance, understanding, and respect.
Isn't it funny how time seems to slip away so fast? One minute you're happy, the other you're sad. But if you give me one more chance to show my love for you is true, I'll stand by your side your whole life through. If life is so short, why won't you let me love you before we run out of time? If love is so strong, why won't you take the chance before our time has gone? If life is so short, if life is so short, if life is so short, love is a word that explains how I feel for you. And when you're in my arms, all my dreams come true. And when you're not around, you can't hardly see. These tears that I'm crying out are for you to be with me. If life is so short,